Hey guys, I'm Mark Slotman. I did my paper for the last class, Issues in Education, on effective discipline within the elementary setting. The reason why I chose this topic was because last year was my first year teaching within this school, and I was really overwhelmed with the different behavior plans that came to me from every single class, it seemed like, that didn't really seem to work. And we also had a lot of individualized behavior plans for more of our what I call heavy hitter students. And these behavior plans just seem to give students more freedoms and more options before the discipline started to started to be stricter. And so I wanted to really dive into this, and I found some really cool things that I'd love to share with you. First, I just wanted to throw out a couple problems that I've noticed in my research. One of them was it was recorded that this coming year, for this school year, almost 3 million students would be suspended. And then right after that, being able to look at the issue of the out of school and in school suspensions that have just been shown to be completely ineffective. I know that there's a lot of data out there and a lot of different opinions on this. But I think schools are really starting to understand that out of school suspensions just aren't working at all. And I think that some in school suspension policies can work in the right situations, but for the most part have really been ineffective. Also, a couple problems that I've noticed, especially within my position and what I've seen over the past couple of years, is just the positive behavior plans continue to fail. I know that a lot of teachers and a lot of schools still push for this. I know our school uses a tool called Class Dojo, which is supposed to be a positive behavior plan to reward students for positive behavior and encourage students to be working towards positive behaviors to gain points or tokens or candy or whatever else we would like to bribe our students with. But a couple research papers that I found actually link positive behavior plans with bullying because the students who are getting more negative remarks don't really look at it as, oh, want to change my behavior in a positive way so I can get that. It's more, that person took my point, and so I need to go show them that that's not okay. And so we kind of see almost a reverse effect happening on that right now, which is really interesting, but also something that we should keep our eyes on, especially if our schools are very behind positive behavior plans. And also, just like I mentioned before, just a massive inconsistency with rules and expectations for students. Even just from classroom to classroom, I see a ton of inconsistencies with how different behaviors are addressed. What I ended up finding was, and really honing in on, were these school-wide behavior programs, which are, as it says on the bottom of the slide there, a systematic and collective approach to working with negative behaviors. And I'll get into that here a little bit, but the main point behind these school-wide behavior programs is to establish predictable outcomes for negative behaviors. Meaning, if I decide to climb the fence at recess, I know that whether if I'm in first grade or fifth grade, that's 5 minutes to be walking around the playground without playing with my friends. No matter how high I climbed, no matter how long I was on there, even if I was just like jumping off of it, I decided to climb the fence. So the predictable outcome is that I have to have 5 minutes spent walking instead of playing with my friends. And I get that we're going to have differences in maturity levels and developmental levels from young fives all the way through fifth grade, sometimes sixth grade in an elementary setting. But the goal of these is to really say, okay, what are the established predictable outcomes that we can set for all of our students? For instance, like talking in the hallway, or if you're late for class, or if you blurt out in front of everybody during class. Being able to take those and be able to go with it. And so most of these plans go through a process to be able to get there. And I'll run through these real quick without getting into too much depth because I have recorded this 2 times already, and both times it's been 15 to 20 minutes. So I'll try to keep this short but also very concise. so that it makes sense. First off, the goal is to identify the problems and the service gaps within the school. I think we could probably all come together and identify most of the problems within the school, but with this being a collective, uh, it's really being able to not to just get teachers and administrators on board on this position, but also to be able to talk to bus drivers and the lunch ladies and the janitors and the aides and even student teachers, possibly, who are anybody who's in the school who is going to have to work with these students to be able to get them in a circle or find a time where everybody can start identifying these problems and service gaps within the school. The second step was to form a leadership team that was going to help push this along. One of the articles that I read that I thought was really interesting really urged schools to be able to have a leadership team that has half of the people who are really excited about this plan and half of the people who are really not excited about this uh, program being implemented, so that they can work together to be able to get the best possible result. And third, um, step is to develop the plan and then implement the plan. And the development of the plan is really crucial, again, to be able to get everybody who's going to have any type of contact with these students for discipline to be in the process or be in a conversation of developing this plan, so that everybody is able to be heard, even if uh, they're not all the ideas that they bring up are not always put into the plan. And then the implementation, again, is a really big deal, but not necessarily that um, every obviously everybody needs to be on board. But the biggest thing that the um, all the articles and all the research that I did pointed out was that if the administration is not behind this and not pushing it and being consistent with it, then these plans are not going to work. And so, really encourage the administration to be fully behind this, allow enough time for training within this, and enough time for professional development within this process of implementing the plan. And then lastly, just to monitor. And a big thing within the monitoring is being able to collect data that shows whether or not the program is working or not. I also wanted to just really quick run through just a kind of a rubric that one of the articles that I read put out for really walking through a disruption within the class. And this was one that the whole school adopted, and I thought was really not very invasive, and I don't think really would change anything that most of us do already. But I thought was very concise and very direct with how they decided to do it. And so this is just a quick example of what that school decided to do, which was, first of all, I think which we all do, would be to catch disruptive behavior early, not ignoring it to the point of something overflowing and, worst case scenario, a student getting hurt, but being able to disrupt it and go from there, and so nothing else accumulates from that. And then the same part is being able to redirect, right? Redirect the negative behavior into something else to be able to just kind of move on from that situation. But if that doesn't happen, getting to a place where we have to remove the student to a safe place where we can also keep eyes on them. The next step within that was just this school decided to allow students time to reflect, not having the teacher or staff member who is doing the discipline get in their face and bend over and ask them why did they do that, how did that make them feel, but actually letting the students, even if they were in kindergarten, to kind of think about it and even to just to cool down, so that their even their like central nervous system is able to calm down a little bit and they're able to think a little bit better. But then, the teacher or the staff member is then able to go out and debrief with the student, and then being able to have a re-entry process back into the classroom, which I think for me, I skip a lot. I usually just say, thanks, now let's go back into the class. Not actually saying, hey, when we go back into class, I would love for you to join this group, and if you have any questions, raise your hand, I'll come over there and help you right away. So, last but not least, the biggest thing that really stood out to me through all this research was consistency. This consistency that allows students to know exactly what is expected of them throughout the entire day, throughout the entire building, allows them to have more stability and security throughout their day. If we think about it as teachers, we're really pushing them outside of their comfort level all the time when we're trying to teach them something new, whether it's a new letter, a new sound, or a new word that they have to spell, or even in my case, being a PE teacher, trying to help them to run faster or do more push-ups or being able to do more sit-ups or to learn how to throw the ball. All that is very frustrating. But to be able to take away one thing that could be frustrating or nerving for students of how am I supposed to act in here, or am I supposed to, put one finger up to go to the bathroom in the PE class, or is that, does that mean I need to get a drink in PE class? I'm not sure. And to be able to take that away from the student and being able to have these consistent outcomes for their behaviors, I believe would be a huge help to these students. So that's my quick presentation about my paper. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. And I hope you guys all have a great weekend.